Andrew.
Josh.
Andrew Gomez.
What's up, man?
Not much. Sitting in this beautiful house of yours.
Listen to the rain.
Yeah. Total vibe.
They can't hear that probably.
No, definitely not. What's on your mind? What's your
Man, it's been a week.
What's keeping you up at nights?
This is a very exciting season for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to like career and work and what I want to do and my goals and stuff, I feel like I'm like entering like a fun new chapter right now. Yeah.
What does that look like? What does that mean?
Not much different from my day-to-days where I'm just working on music. It's just more of, I picked up management a few months ago. I probably should have did that a while ago, but I don't know. I think sometimes you kind of need to just do the thing on your own, and you need to figure out what that looks like and what all the hurdles and the obstacles are before you can value what something like that would do.
What offloading things like that means?
Yeah. You know how it is, but
you kind of have to find your workflow.
Yeah.
Before you can delegate to somebody else.
Exactly. And there's still stuff I can do better. Like I think I can offload work a little better than I am now to maybe some other people to do some things for me. But, step one was management.
Yeah. Your inbox is going to be flooded with like up and comers now. Let me tune your vocals.
No,
Let me edit your drums.
I have I know exactly the kind of person and even some names on the brain and who I would use already. It's just more of like when the time makes sense is when I will do that. But this week was great. I just got back from LA. I was there for a week doing some writes and doing some just meeting with some old friends, new friends, stuff I can't talk about, but
secrets,
good stuff. But I think I don't know. It just feels like a fun, refreshing time. I feel like it's like it's not much of my work is different, but there's just kind of like a new I don't know, how everyone has like seasons. It's like the up and down. I feel like I was in a down for like a good year. Not in a bad way. I look at the work I've done and even outside of work, just like, I got married this past year, and I would consider on whatever this downtime was during that period too, when it came to work at least. But I wasn't maybe doing as much output as I wanted to. I wasn't like, doing as many sessions as I'd like to, or even the sessions I was doing because of planning the wedding. It takes so much time. You had to do the big wedding, but but you understand that.
We took the easy route and just
that
we foregoed on
you are wiser than most. But now that's all over, and got management, and there's some artists I've been working with lately that are just newer artists, and then maybe some ones that are a little like kind of up the totem pole. I don't know, it just feels refreshing. I feel like I've kind of refell in love with making music not like I wasn't having. You understand what I'm talking about?
Well, it feels. I think I feel similar to some extent. I've been saying that. The past year I got married, I bought a house, it was craziness. And I've been saying the past couple weeks are finally I could breathe. I'm not just white knuckling, getting every, there's a level of, I can settle and breathe and have a time that is refreshing in that sense that isn't crippling with this has to get done. And I'm putting out fires constantly.
Man.
Of that, which isn't bad. And I think there's a level of me that enjoys the chaos and the pressure sometimes. I
think we all love the chaos a bit when things are hitting and things are going until you get that little moment. I've had this a few times in my life where I look at my car, oh my God, I've done a session every day for 2 months.
Yeah.
But when you're in it and you're in that zone, you're oh yeah, I'm doing great work. I'm doing things fast. I'm so efficient. But once you kind of get a little break from that, and where you have to take a break, or you go on a vacation, or when you have to pump the brakes, that's when I feel reality hits, and you're oh man, I was killing myself over this,
Yeah, but maybe it's the workaholic in me, but I usually like the break is like lasts like, a day, two. And I'm like, that's cool, but I'm ready to go again. Like I want to just get back. And like,
True. No, I feel the same.
I need to keep busy because if I'm not, my mind starts,
Yeah.
rethink. Like, not that it's a bad thing, but I like those downtimes because it's usually a time to like recoup and be like, what could I do different or better? What do I want to reinvent here? Or
so you're using those times as like dividers of like that season, this season, this season.
Kind of. I mean, I kind of have to because when I'm doing the thing, there's no end. No end. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I see how many songs you're mixing. You be busy.
Thanks, man. I mean,
I'm sending you stuff too, so it's like,
Yeah.
But
those breaths are important. I think
they are. They're very. I think I've learned the value of that, and I wasn't really like that until I met my now wife.
Yeah.
We started dating in 2018, and early on, and even for the first year we were dating, like she kind of pointed out, I was like, "You're overworking yourself." But I also feel like
that's what a relationship will do. Forces you to slow down.
Yeah, she was the one hammering it in for about a year that like. You need to stop working on the weekends. And I could not grasp that concept because you know how it is, man. When things start moving and get exciting, especially like maybe like because I've been doing music already full time as a producer at that point a couple years.
Yeah.
But you could be doing that. You could be doing the thing, and like that wind that catches you, that takes you to that next level or that next thing. Like when you can feel that's about to happen or that's happening, like, or you're realizing what's happening around you, or like maybe a community is growing with the people you're working with and cool stuff's happening. Like it's really fun. And then you don't want to stop. And then,
I mean, maybe you resonate with this, but the issue I run into as I continually still work on weekends, even though I say I don't want to or don't have to, but like my problem is, I still struggle with the idea that like I turned my hobby into work. So when I go like, cool, I'm not going to work today. I kind of just go like, well, what do I do then instead?
Yeah.
Usually I'm just, okay, I can go for a walk. That's fun. All right. Spend some time with the wife, go out to eat, do whatever. That's fun. But there's like 10 hours left in the day.
It's 4:00 on Saturday and you've run out of things to do.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I shouldn't go to the studio, but even if it's an innocent thing, like, okay, let's go to the studio and just play.
Let's just have fun.
Let's just record or produce or like make some weird sounds. Like it still is hard because I'm still in the studio. I'm still in my work environment, so it doesn't feel like a healthy thing still. Because it's still like using that sort of pathway that I'm using on the thing. That's what I continually run into. That I'm kind of constantly on the hunt for a hobby that sticks with me in the way that music
kind of was before the job.
Yeah, I mean it's I need something new to obsess over, I guess, in some world.
That I have a very obsessive behavior. I've been like that my entire life. So anything I was into, you can ask my parents or anyone that's known me my entire life. If I was into something, I got into it, and I would be the guy that tell you everything about it. Yeah. And I have those micro obsessions still, like over various things that don't matter in the grand scheme of life. But something really profound that I was talking about the other day with a friend when I was in LA was like, I feel like some of the most important things in life to like keep you going and keep you healthy are like kind of falling in love and caring about stuff that kind of doesn't help you or matter. Like those little hobbies that like you can go, okay, this is very easy. There's a bunch of video games in front of you. Yeah. I could play that for a while and get really absorbed into something and just like really care about it and like research about it. That literally does nothing for me when it comes to career and anything. But it's that I get to turn my brain off from all the studio stuff and I get to care about something else for like an hour or something, But
I was in an Uber recently, and we were just talking. Me and my wife were talking to the Uber driver, and he just went on his thing. He was like an older retired guy, and his thing was just toy trains. Like he built these trains. And we were like, what? That's crazy. He's like, yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, because I need something to, He's like, that's my thing. And he had shown us pictures of all his toy trains and he makes the tracks and the thing. And he like just loved trains. He'd go out and like find real trains in real life and like model them after it. Gotcha. It was crazy. And but it was that. It was like, wow, that as crazy as it might seem to like an outsider is like a quirky thing, but it's healthy, you know? And that guy's
Sure.
like, yeah, if I don't do that, I get myself in trouble, you know? Like
Because you're paranoid and you're bored and you don't know what you're doing.
yeah, or there's like, you know, it's easy to slip into the unhealthy things in those moments to
Sure.
numb your brain or shut off too,
Yeah.
I think. And that's,
For sure.
you know, when you have that sort of playing field is dangerous for some because that could be, you know, a runway to bad things.
Bad things. Yeah, for sure. I understand
to
that and I
numb
have
that out,
lived that. So I completely get it. So yeah.
I think it's a curse that all of us creatives to some extent fight with because I think we all have that obsessive personality.
Yes.
In order to really chase this thing in the way that we all have that, you know, takes us to that level, I think.
And ultimately, what are we chasing? Like, what is it? Like, if you can take the music, if we can take the music out of it, we can take it like I make dope songs all day, or I write dope songs, I mix dope songs, or stuff that gets played by millions of people, or whatever, or even just doing it for fun. Like, at the end of the day, like, what is that? Like, what if you can remove that, like, and look underneath? Like, is it a dopamine hit? Is it serotonin? Is it what is that? Is it a feeling of like, feeling like you've contributed something to the world that maybe affects somebody? Like, I feel like these are like things that.
What is
honestly,
it for you?
For me, you know,
like why? Why do you make music?
That's a great. No one's ever asked me that. You know, it's weird, right? That's such a basic question. Like, why this? You know,
why? Yeah, why?
Yeah.
I mean,
man, you know, I very early on, like growing up, my parents always just had music on the car. Like, grew up in a very like kind of like Christian upbringing. I know you have like a very similar kind of thing. So like I'm an encyclopedia of 90s Christian music, rock, all
Love
that.
it. Love
You know,
it.
my band is signed with Tooth and Nail Records, which is known for being like like the cool youth group music. Even though they wouldn't claim to be a faith-based label, they just happened then to be in the market that boomed.
That was just like the scene then.
It
too.
was the
like,
scene. They were defining the scene. MXPX and then you know, Emery Under Oath. You know, all the bands.
That's an interesting thought because a lot of those weren't even like devout Christian bands as much as they like were.
Under Oath would not. I know Aaron. I worked with them. They wouldn't call themselves like a Christian band, but it doesn't mean that they don't have something they believe in necessarily. But they weren't trying to put themselves in that box. But you know, they're always putting that music on. I was just always in music. I think I don't know. I think like anything in life, like, I mean, if something brings you joy, you maybe try to move towards it. I think I wanted to play drums originally when I was a kid, and my parents were like, "Nah, loud. Here's a guitar." So I got a guitar when I was like 8 years old, and a little acoustic Yamaha. I still have it; it's up in the attic. But
Nice.
but just playing and just learning songs and just being this little 8-year-old homeschooled kid that had nothing to do but just learn how to play songs and all that, and then got electric guitar like a year later, and like. By the time I moved to Nashville, my whole family moved to Nashville in 2004. I was 12 years old, so 31 for everyone counting. But
everybody knows now.
yeah, everyone knows. Wow. I was already. I wouldn't say I was like a prodigy or anything like that, but I could hang with like a group of people by like 12 years old. Like I could hang and like play in a band. I could do that. Played at church, did that for many, many years. Like every Sunday, every Wednesday, multiple services Sunday, that whole thing. If you grew up in that, you know, you completely understand what that's like. But I mean, also just like, that's just flexing the muscle.
Yeah.
And that helped me learn band dynamics. That helped me learn like, cause a lot of those like worship bands and stuff, like, it's just like, yeah, you might be covering a song at church, but at the end of the day, like, especially where I was growing up, you know, we weren't having like the computers with the click tracks. We weren't doing, we're like a small, medium-sized church.
Yeah.
It was just plug in and play, like it just follow the drummer.
Yeah.
But we wanted to be excellent. So the drummer got himself a little click station that we kept in the booth. And so we were following him. And I think that was very important for me, was to not only just like, oh, I like music and I can play guitar, but being around other people that also felt the same way and had to just get that community thing right, you know, and figure out like this person's strength and like, how does that play in? But ultimately the answer why I do music is because it's kind of the thing that if I was not involved with or touching it or doing it, like I would get very just like anxious and, you know, and I've taken kind of decent breaks before where I'm like very not as active, especially like I said, last year, like throughout the wedding planning season, like I was doing so much less than I wanted to do just cause I couldn't do it. And you know, like you get the itch and it's like, I want to do this, but yeah, I felt constrained. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I do it because I love it. And if I didn't do it, I would, like you said, probably just be doing a bunch of stuff that I probably shouldn't be doing, or it'd be, you know, I don't know, but I'm very, you know, happy and I feel like grateful and humbled that I can wake up here in my house, walk across the house, sit down with an artist, write a thing. Like I wrote a reggae song today, bro.
Nice.
Yeah, I haven't done that.
That's fun. That's wild.
It's just kind of a fun thing, and just tried it. It was a blast, and like I kind of look at music a lot like that. Like, I mean, there's very few things I won't touch as far as genre goes, and I look at that more of like a fun challenge. If it's something like, I have to like it first. If it's something like a genre I just don't really enjoy, then why would I do it? But I don't like hate reggae. I also necessarily don't fully understand what that is, but also like
I can get close. I can put my own spin on it. I can
try it, and I feel like that's kind of when cool stuff happens.
Oh, totally.
You know, like when you
break the rules,
a little bit. Yeah. But that's ultimately why. I mean, that's like a kind of a basic or long form, but also basic answer. It's just like, oh yeah, it's just what we're talking about. It's like I wouldn't know what to do, and I think I do feel bad sometimes when I do see people that I just meet, general acquaintances or friends or just like, you know, whoever person that like, it's not that they have to do something dope or cool or very like in the starlight and you know, whatever, but like, you know, if you can find something that you really enjoy and find a way to like move your career towards that, like there's so much happiness that comes from that. Yes, it has its challenges for sure. You have the hobby turn commerce thing, and then now you have the figure, you know, they have all that stuff to figure out. But in the day, like, I don't know, for me at least, I mean, it makes me happy to get up every day and do something cool. I'm like, what's the cool thing today I get to work on, or what's the cool this, or what's the puzzle I need to like figure out about this song to make it awesome, you know? And I do think the church thing also is leading me more into like kind of the more rock side of things, organic, kind of more bandy side of things. If I'm working with a solo artist, I treat stuff like it's a little bit more of a band.
Yeah. We definitely have similar approaches and upbringings in that. It's always crazy to me how much the church has contributed to people getting into the music world, but arts even in general.
Gospel music too, like a little bit different from like the normal kind of typical Protestant, you know, worship service thing. But like how many big, huge R&B artists like attribute gospel to their stuff, you know? I had that conversation with somebody else on this podcast thing. And it's just an interesting thought because I mean, it's a large percentage. It's a large percentage. It's way more people than we think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a net positive.
It is
for the church getting a lot of hate sometimes.
And some of the best bands of recent times, I feel like they came out of like some kind of, even if they're like not practicing that or doing it, like they came from like that sort of background or some kind of understanding.
Well, that's why the tooth and nail comment was really interesting, and I never fully thought about that, but like they definitely did define that genre of that era.
They did.
And like you're right, like none of those bands or even the label would say like we're a Christian label, but they were all like Christian
adjacent or something, like, you know. It was funny, the heavier you got to the solid state stuff like the metalcore, like the people like moving the genre forward literally were bands like As LA Dying, which was a self-proclaimed Christian band at the time, Under Oath, like stuff like that. Yeah. And like it was just really funny going to shows as a kid and like, you know, like it's like, man, all types of people are into this and it's like it's crazy. But
I just wonder if it was like a huge marketing ploy just to like let kids that like when we were younger, the parents, no mom, it's like a Christian band. I can go see it. And they're like, oh, okay, here's tickets. Like,
that definitely was a thing.
That has to be part. I've never fully thought about that, but that had to be part of the allure to big marketing executives were like, we got this one.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, also Christian music in the 2000s was so industrialized and like it was such a big thing.
That's fair, yeah.
It was such a big thing, like, and it was a lot of bands did treat it like, well, not a lot, but like there was definitely a percentage of bands that treat it as like, here's our gateway, we can get popular through this, and then like we can pivot to mainstream. Yeah, a lot of bands like tried that, and a lot failed. A couple did it really well. But yeah,
Yeah.
it shows how big and what a hold of like on the industry like that world was like in the early 2000s. On top of just also a lot of other music just popping off. Like I think early 2000s was like you're coming out of boy band land of like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. You had like your big superstar pop idols like your Christinas and your Britney Spears and all that, and then you had this cool like alternative thing going like the Michelle Branch and the all that. Then you have like Eyed Peas and you have like 182 and all these.
There was a lot
Slipknot.
going on. Yeah.
There's so much happening, which I think is why we're seeing. I think every 20 years we get like our nostalgic resurgence, and we're clearly in the 2000s like comeback time right now. But what's interesting about this whole thing is like a lot of these kids I'm working with, I'm just calling them kids when they're adults, but they're 21 years old, whatever.
That's a kid to me.
Yeah.
Older you get.
I'm always like, man, you don't know what you're doing until you're about 27. Like you can
I'd still,
yeah. I mean, I think I know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of winging it at this point, you know? I think we all are. I think all creators kind of wing it a little bit.
There's no right or wrong to any of this. So yeah, we're all figuring it out.
But I had this guy in, a few weeks ago, he was here. He was an artist from LA, and he was in town. We did a session, and he came in, and I'm telling you, man, it looked like you could have just picked him out of like a background of like some old footage from 2001, like new metal, like Limp Bizkit POD, like the big, huge baggy pants, oversized, like the tap out or like the Affliction shirt kind of thing. Haircut, like very like edgy late 90s Y2K, very Y2K vibes.
Y2K.
And you know, I was talking to him and I'm like, well, when were you born? He's like, I was born in like 2002. And I was like, dude, like you look like you fit in better than a lot of people I even knew in the time that were trying to look cool and fit in back then. And he was like, well, I had older brothers that like my first like culture, like as a small child, my first culture influences were my older brothers that were in that kind of scene world and that all that. And he was like, and I think all of us, you can ask you can ask your parents what their favorite time was in their life or what was the best time to be alive. And they would say whenever they're about like between 16, 17 to 23 years old. So like the 70s, well, it's just 80s. The most
formative sort of years of that. So without even realizing it, it leaves such a lasting imprint.
It does
on you, I think. I mean, I've said that for a while. Like, I don't know. I haven't been able to enjoy music the way that I enjoyed it when I was that age, you know? Like, I think
but then you listen to that music and you enjoy it so much.
Well, yeah. You know? I mean, it's like, tapping into that level of...
I think we're all just trying to stay like a kid, you know?
I mean, at our core, I mean, that's something I think about. Yeah.
Our kind of people are trying to do that. There are people that want to... and good for them. Like they want to be mature. They want to grow up. They want to. They want to move up that corporate ladder. They want to do the thing. They want to have the nice house. They want to have all whatever. And I'm like, man, just give me like a cool studio and some cool people to work with. I'm just a happy pea in a pod, bro.
I mean, that goes back to like why do you do the music thing, and I think it's something I resonate with too. Even is like I just don't know how to do anything else. You know, like given the other options, I can't do it. I can't. You know, I can't do the normal thing. You know, I don't know, I'm not wired in a way that I could ever, I'd always be looking for an out.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it's a different job or a escape that's healthy or unhealthy, like I'd always be looking for an out of that thing, you know?
Yeah. And like to wrap up that story, that guy, I was asking him, I was like, yo, like, do you like not only dress it, you like, you know things like you understand you like understand what that culture was back then. And he said, well, honestly, dude, I know I wasn't like alive for that, the prime of that or what that was. Like I was, even when I was like 5 years old, it was like 2007, whatever. He's like, I just feel like looking back at history, that was the best time to be alive. And I was like, why is that? And I like started pressing like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, y'all got to grow up without the internet, and then you got to be there when it was still like not what it is now, which is still mostly has net positives overall on a lot of things. But it's like y'all had like MySpace, y'all were just like having fun, like it didn't matter back then. He's
culture
like, y'all were
the internet was very different,
dude. Yeah, I mean those were the days. But now everything's about engagement and clicks and likes and influencers, and which is like, that's, respect to them. Like, there's people making a huge hustle and making some good money doing that, and they were also probably born into growing up in a way where like they can probably understand that a little better than we can. Like how, and they probably find that more important. But yeah, I just found that like super interesting. Like he's a kid that wasn't alive for his time, being like, man, y'all lived in the best time. Like, it was like, I mean, I would say that selfishly.
Yeah.
But hearing someone that, I don't know, I just thought it was super interesting.
So you think the internet is net positive overall?
Yeah, I mean, we could sit and debate that all day long, but yeah, I would say so. I think it's inevitable. I'll say that.
Oh, okay.
I'd say it's inevitable. And a lot of things are happening.
So
right
you're
now
choosing to be optimistic about it because it's
I'm very much an optimist. That is who I am to my core. Like, I will find the good in anything, and I will wring that out and make it,
We're different people in that sense.
Very different people, yeah.
I like to, in a perfect world, wish I could be an optimist, but I don't know. I'm geared towards the net negative sometimes.
I mean, it's so easy.
The internet's still out to me, whether it's net positive or negative, because I mean, it's undeniable the gain that it's brought and the leveling of the playing field that it's given.
We know what's happening across the world way easier now. We're more aware of things, we're not our own little pod in our community or our neighborhood, which honestly sometimes sometimes it feels like, man, that would be kind of nice to just kind of,
but I don't know.
To know what's just happening around here,
I like your idea of it being inevitable, which I think speaks to like us shifting as humans. But I think the way we were wired in previous lifetimes and years, like we weren't really made to have that big of a bubble or connection though either, which I think is where like a lot of the negative and like friction comes with the whole thing. The amount of
information we digest was 100 years ago, just not like, I mean, yeah, you have very smart people in history that would research, read, and do all these incredible things that, were groundbreaking at the time. But the amount of information that we see every day compared to even like 30 years ago, was just like...
It feels like we're living in a time now where, there was a time when we went from hunter-gatherers many years ago where you had to kill what you ate to, to
wake up and do the same thing,
to agricultural, where now you didn't have to fight every day for your survival.
Yeah.
It feels like we're almost living in that transition right now
but in this like digital
space, social space. Like it's much different as far as connection and human interaction goes, I mean,
how many people do we all know now versus like how many people our parents knew, and how many people will we say are our friends, but they would say back then, no, that's like an acquaintance. Yeah.
I mean, the word acquaintance, I don't know, even exists in most people's terminology
people don't say
nowadays.
Acquaintance anymore. Like, I think I would call someone an acquaintance like, I go to the bar tonight, I meet someone, he's super cool.
Yeah.
He's like a musician or whatever, and we talk something. I have that one interaction, and then that's an acquaintance. And then I think at some point, like if there's more engagement and like maybe that's where people start drawing the line, maybe. I feel like, I don't know. I've also just overused like friend, buddy, whatever.
Sure.
We all do that.
Especially in a Nashville sense.
Nashville.
Everybody's your friend in Nashville.
Yeah. I mean, there's so little truth to that. There's a little bit of that old Nashville charm still there.
Sure. Oh, yeah. But I mean, that gets into parasocial things too, where it's like you feel like you're a friend to somebody who you never met the person.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what celebrities are based upon, is like you feel like you know them and you've never even...
Yeah, you're just digesting what they're giving out, really.
And you can form that relationship with those people and those things because of how out there everything is, I guess now, there's no private personal life almost anymore,
Yeah, there isn't. I mean, well, you can. There's the people that like they stay completely off social media or they have very private accounts or whatever. But how many people do we all know personally that everyone has that one friend that just can't figure it out in the dating world? That can't get that. They like, it's like, man, you're a great person. And it's like, man, you just like the relationships never work out. And like, man, your relationship. But you have those. I'm sure we all have the conversation. It's like, oh yeah, well he doesn't have Instagram or he doesn't have, and you're like, and immediately something inside you goes like, like,
is he even relevant?
It's not even about relevance. It's like, it's what's he hiding?
Yeah.
It's like at the end of the day, all he did was just hit a few buttons and type in a screen name, and then there's an account, and maybe put a profile photo up and a post once a year, and that's all you need.
I don't know that I've ever felt that way about somebody who doesn't have a social media account, I'm almost intrigued of like, oh, how do they exist? Like
Exactly.
Like, where does their joy come from? You know, like to me, I'm almost like, what do they do all day?
Yeah.
Like that's where my mind immediately goes of like, what do they do for fun or entertainment? Or like,
Or
how do they keep up with their friends? Like, do they just text all day? Or
my thing is like, how do you know about like things that are happening? Like it's
how do
not,
you keep up? Do you read the newspaper? Like, what do you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you read news, like online news or whatever, but like even from a social thing, like you mean just living in Nashville. Here's a great example, like Up Down, they'll bar up in East Nashville. At least right now of this recording, like they do like a fun little thing every like once a month or every few weeks, a Thursday night thing where they break out the N64, pick a game, and they do a little competition. You win stuff. Like I would never know about that if I had to be like at Up Down.
Or would you? Because you would be surrounded by more people who are like your core friend group who also like Nintendo 64 who would have told you about it. Been like, yo, Thursday night we're going to like,
I mean, I would have to go to Up Down and see a flyer. Unless they already knew about it, then they told me.
That's what I'm saying. If they like told you, but that would almost force you to have closer friendships and relationships with people.
It's interesting. Like it's such a weird, like, I mean, I don't know. It's always a fun conversation about that. Cause I don't know if no one has the answer, which is also just like, I think that was touched on a little bit on like maybe the first episode y'all did with like Sam, I call him Sam Wise Moses.
Sam Wise Moses.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just like the whole, like, no one really knows anything. Like no one knows like,
no one knows anything.
Like every big, like name any big controversial world event, political thing, social thing, everyone immediately has an opinion. It's like at the end of the day, it's like, do we actually really know? Like, do we know anything? Like, you only know what you know from what you've been told. Yeah. Do they know anything? Yeah. Like, you know, like, and that goes to anything, not even like controversial stuff. Yeah. Like, how do you know when a song is mixed? How do you know when blah, blah, blah? Like, you know, how you know, like, it's just like, I don't know, like when it feels right to me. Like, you know, how you know when a production's done? How you know how many more layers of stuff I need to put into this? Or if I need to take away stuff, it's like, there's no right or wrong there.
There's a fun question. How do you know when a song is done? Like you as a producer.
When you know what? I feel like it's not super convoluted. I think it's when it feels right. If there's a goal for what is a song trying to do, like maybe emotionally, or is it just trying to feel cool? Is it trying to just be dope? Or is it trying to like say something that has some depth to it? So I think both types of songs are really important. Just whenever it's there, like whenever that, like, I don't know, I ship off songs to you to get mixed or whoever, or maybe I mix it, I put it out, and like 8 months later, I'm like, oh man, I could have probably like added a thing.
Interesting, yeah.
But you know, I had a conversation even last week when I was in LA about this similar kind of vibe. It was talking about like, actually, let's just get personal here. Let's get real. We can get real about some stuff.
Ready, go.
I had a really, you know, I won't say names or anything, but I went to Sally Trip, had a very, very, very cool opportunity come up for me to work with an artist / band. I will be that vague. I won't even tell you if it's an artist or a band. And
let's get specific.
Yeah. And I mean, whatever. It's a band.
No, I'm not crying. I'm just
but it would be easier for me to tell the story, not having to put that much in. But reached out. I was honestly a little like taken back by a band of like this sort of popular. I don't even know they're really like super popular, but the thing is like, oh, I just think they're cool.
Sure.
At the end of the day, like I kind of don't care. Like if I think you're cool, like you're up here for me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter how many monthly listeners you have on Spotify. It doesn't matter. But I'm like, oh man, they're really cool. I was using their songs as references like a couple years ago for like this record or this thing, and like that's how much I know them. I like love their stuff. But they had reached out and wanted to set up a session. So, you know, set up a trip to go out there to write. They're doing like new project, new songs. And I had a moment last week while I was in my Airbnb. Like I was like, it was like a Thursday night. Yeah, a song that I worked on. It came out Friday. So I was like putting up like a social post or whatever. Adding that song to like my little work portfolio, just doing all the like things we all do. And I was like, just kind of started listening to just all these songs I've worked on in the last few years, just like picking through, like, oh, I haven't heard that in a long time. And it was the first time ever. And this is how I'm saying, like, I'm in like a new season where it feels like, I feel like things are like, I feel like I'm like, it's either maturity, it's leveling up, it's some kind of thing, somewhere, something of both. It's the first time I listened to stuff and just accepted it for what it was. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, I could have done this.
Yeah.
But people love this song.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Like I enjoy listening to it. And I like how I can, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
6 months ago,
Yeah.
8 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And I can be proud of like who I was then.
Yeah.
Because I love where I am now. And I love the potential of where I'm at now. But I had that kind of minor freak out. I was like, man, what am I doing? Like that imposter syndrome came in, you know, I'm like, what am I doing here, man? Like what?
Yeah.
And I just kind of was like, you know what? This band sought you out because they like your stuff.
Yeah.
You already won. You're done.
Yeah.
You just need to go in and it's just, you just go do the thing. Like it's nothing different.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, the right was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to go back out and keep working with them.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I love this. I'm hearing a lot of stuff that I was talking about with Kyle on the last episode.
So, I haven't heard that one yet. So,
yeah, well, it's funny because, I mean, we went, you know, he kind of went on a riff and we were talking about like, you need to trust your taste. Like that is the guiding light in this thing we're all trying to do, right? And I think it's something that I've been maybe riffing on or pointing out with a lot of these conversations is like you can't trust anything but your taste or your gut, right? Because if you're trusting what the audience says, you already lost because you're just creating for children at that point. You're asking a toddler, like, what do you want for dinner? Like, of course, you're going to say chicken fingers because they don't know that, like, a steak is going to be way better, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, you only can trust your own intuition and your own, you know, taste, and relying on that being enough, right? Because that's exactly what you're saying. Even down to like, hey, maybe this band isn't the biggest band in the world, but I think what they're doing is cool. And like that's you know, you could have very easily been like, well, the numbers aren't big enough, and like I work with X, Y, and Z, and their numbers are bigger, you know, and like
I will say,
you know,
if that was the way I thought, I wouldn't be where I am today.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, and I think that's the key to where you are today is because, and maybe you're just coming into it now even more, but like, it's just strictly going like, no, I trusted my taste. And even in those songs, that's like, you could have listened and gone like, I could have added 7 more guitars, or I could have cut the verse or whatever. Yeah. You went, no, I trusted my taste in that moment. And they're great. Like they're out there, they're performing well. And they led me to this thing that now
will be the next step.
That is the next step even more. And it's simply because you trusted your taste in those moments and you didn't question the decision of like, oh, well, we posted a TikTok clip and like
it didn't
pop off. So like, I guess maybe I should change the chorus, you know, like you went, no, it's cool. And I don't really care what they are. And I'm working with artists who are doing the same thing and trusting their intuition and their gut.
I think once the artist is trusting, has vision, dude, I've worked with so many artists that like, maybe we write the song or maybe they have a song and they have no vision and they're like, here, make a thing.
Yeah.
And that was the first few years of like, I think a lot of people have similar, you have that at the start, you work your way up a little bit. I think you prove and you get challenged a lot when people start be like trusting enough to spend money to work with you. And when you haven't proved yourself on like a commercial way yet, that's the time where you got to crush. And you may not even know what your taste is yet, but you just kind of have to do it. That's why I tell everyone that start like, man, what? Last week, a kid messaged me from, I think he's going to Belmont, I think. It was the same night that I had this like mental breakdown in my Airbnb. And I came to my senses and I kind of made peace with some things that I needed to like maybe leave town and leave this space. I think location change does so much like therapy for you.
Sure.
And I mean, I was by myself. The first LA trip I've done where I didn't bring an artist with me or I wasn't with an artist for the trip, I was completely on my own. And, you know, this kid messaged me and he was, you know, he's like, man, I love your stuff. Like, I think I like met on Threads or something like that. Nice. We're at that point in Threads where like, there's some people that are like, man, I really want this to be cool. And like,
are you still on Threads?
Oh man, I think I'm keeping,
I think you're the only user.
I'm keeping some seeds. I'm keeping some seeds in there. Cause man, is Twitter or X or whatever Elon decides to call it tomorrow. It is just become, I'm definitely like, I was a big Twitter guy. I still am really, but I'm hoping Threads kind of gets like that upwind, that meta money. They really get going, you know?
There you go.
But this kid just like, there's this kind of trend going in on Threads as of, I guess, last week or whenever, you know, recording this, but where people are just like trying to fix my algorithm. Can you please comment on this or like it if you are one of these types of people? Are you a musician? Do you songwrite? Or do you work in this thing? They're like, I want to get cool people to follow and try to build some kind of make some new friends on here. And that's what I love about early social media. It always feels like a party like that.
Yeah.
Like the first few days Thread was out. I don't know if you're on the first couple days. Yeah. It was a party for a few days. But, and I was like, yeah, I live in Nashville, full-time music producer, writer, whatever. And then immediately this guy hit me up. I was like, man, I'm on the Belmont. I listen to your stuff. I really love this. Like, and just all the questions, like all the like how do I do this? Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna read you what I said, because it was like I was listening because I remember we had this podcast planned and coming up, and I was like, oh man, like there's some stuff here that might actually be like pretty cool to like bring into the podcast, some like interesting points. Let me see. Friday.
Just week. Do it.
Yeah, here it is. All the questions like, are you working out of your own studio? Do you work at your studio? Are you just writing stuff, sent the labels? Are you making things and presenting them? What genre probably you're working in? Sorry, this being so many questions, blah, blah, blah. Now, I was just like, yeah, I grew up here, played in bands, got signed to one of my favorite labels after being in the band for 7 years. I started seriously dabbling in learning production in 2011, which I was 19 at the time. Just messed around in Pro Tools, demoed stuff for my band, had a couple friends that trusted me to like just record a record. The first record I ever did was like a post-hardcore record from a band in Clarksville. They're still a band today, actually. It's like I grew up in like the 2000s alt scene, like rock, punk, screamo, metalcore, rock, emo, Warped Tour, etc. And by the time I got to producing enough to consider myself full time, I hardly had worked on any of that kind of music that I actually loved.
Yeah.
Getting to full time meant saying a lot of yeses to projects and gigs that I liked, but not necessarily loved. Mm-hmm. Yet still showing up and giving 120% and trying to learn everything I could out of every single experience. Eventually, the right artist at the right time came when I was about 5 years into full time. And which still I wasn't making like a lot of money. Yeah. You can be full time in something and not be making a lot of money.
Yeah, like, you're not full time. You're broke.
You're full time, like in your time that you're spending doesn't mean that reflects the money you're making. And like at the right moment happened. The right. I think we had talked on another episode about like the luck factor and like how much of this is actually, was that the Cam episode probably? Cam, yeah. It's like that happened a few years ago, and it's been like really steady growth ever since. And I just answered the basic stuff, like I work in my house and all that. But I think that's kind of like, I don't know. I felt like I spent a handful of years just trying to meet people, build community, like all the things that everyone preaches about. Say, oh, you gotta like meet people. Like, yeah, like that's what you have to do. You got to get out of your house.
Yeah,
and you have to make human connections with people, because the internet, go back to that, so vast, so wide, so oversaturated. Like, I can find a producer in 5 seconds. On just like throw out a calling card, you get 1 million replies. How do I know as an artist who to work with? Guess how? Yeah. You have to have a human connection with them to trust your art, your stuff with them.
I mean, that shit was so much for me when I moved here finally. I mean, I was making, I was mixing records and doing whatever, and knew a lot of people here in town, and it wasn't until I moved here and like met them and sat down with them and A, just showed them I'm a real human, and B, that like, I can function in a town like this. And, and then I started getting hired by them, like they could have hired me years before or 6 months before or whatever. And, they knew who I was, but there's something about, the face-to-face community of it still that I think is important, despite the idea that you could also operate out of anywhere in the world and make money with it and do it, they're not mutually exclusive, I think. But I think the reality is if you want to work in the industry, like on an industry level of like you things that are moving the needle, like real talks of relationships,
and you want that growth
where you're deals and labels, like that's where you have to show your face,
Sure. Yeah. It's I I mean, Nashville's like become a really interesting city the last few years for that. Like, I feel like it was just country and Christian music for so long. And now there's actually, there's like a community here, and even being in LA, like people are talking about Nashville. They're like,
interesting.
They're like, man, y'all have like some kind of cool scene happening there.
Yeah.
Like you have all these X artists, this artist, whoever. And it's like, yeah, man, like these are, and we're all friends. We all know each other because Nashville is like that.
So small.
It's small enough to be like homey.
So small. Yeah. I mean, it's,
and, you know,
it's still green too. Like I think it's still coming up. I mean,
it's still great. Yeah,
since
we're
I
at the
moved
early
here
days.
5 years ago or whatever. I mean, it was like nothing 5 years ago. I feel like, and now it is more. And it's like if in 5 years that happened, I can only imagine.
This like multiplier kind of keeps.
Sure, that's
going.
what I mean. Give it another 5 years. I mean,
it's gonna be crazy. I'm here for it. I have no plans on leaving. This is home for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun to leave town and do stuff, but coming back, it always feels good every time. You know?
Yeah, I mean the level of comfort I think that you could have in Nashville is unique for it being, you know, such a music city and music business driven city that I don't think anything else compares in that level of.
And it's just small enough to where like I can drive across town in 20 minutes.
Yeah. That and just the factor of living like comfortably, like having a wife and a house,
having
like,
a
yard. Yeah.
Dude,
like, you know, like it's, you're pressed to find that in anywhere else really that
like
has
a big
sort of the same infrastructure.
Yeah. Like
that
LA.
has the same infrastructure. Yeah. I mean, LA is probably the only comparable thing maybe.
But also like no one has yards in LA. I mean, people do, but like,
sure.
Like most artists
you need real money to like
serious money
exist in the same level of comfort that you could exist in Nashville. Now, that's not to say Nashville is going up wildly in price.
No, it is.
Like,
it is.
We're getting close to LA prices, which is
but you're getting a lot more for what you're getting more here still, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, most people would fight that. Well, LA, you have the beach, which is
that's true.
LA
does have
a pretty
perks,
big, strong. Yeah,
I also paid more in gas than I ever had on one fill up. Like I paid more filling up half a tank of gas there than I ever have here filling up an entire tank of gas.
I mean,
car.
It's like $5 or $6 out there right now.
It's a little over $6. When I had to refill up the rental car, it was halfway full, and it was like $60 just to fill up half of it.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, but
yeah,
I think there's still bigger opportunities in LA too.
I think
there's still
but everything has to exist and be their own way, and you need those communities, and I've learned that more and more every time I go out there, because I used to like hate that place.
Yeah,
like I would hate being there. I would be like, why am I here? Like, you know, like why am I spend money and come out here? Like, what am I doing? And you know, nowadays it's like there's so much there that isn't here, but we have a lot that they don't have. And the marriage of the two is very important, I think, for the future when it comes to, at least in the kind of the zone I work in, which is like the pop rock alternative scene, punk, whatever. You know, I think they're always wanting our songwriters.
Yeah.
We like their artists. I think the biggest difference between Nashville and LA when it comes to like that kind of stuff is like, it feels like all the artists in LA are cool.
Yeah.
Everyone's cool in LA. Because there's just like a higher cultural standard of cool. Here we're like, man, I'll just wear my whatever work shorts.
I mean, you said the word culture, which I think is the big difference that I always say between the two is like it's a very, I mean, we're in the South.
But we know how to write songs. And they want our songwriting. Yeah. We want how cool they are. We can learn from each other.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, and I think that's the beautiful relationship of it, you know, and that's, I don't know. I don't think it's mutually exclusive, one town or another, and I think that's changing as well. I think there used to be like more of a rivalry to some extent that I think is like going away.
Enough people moved between, and now like,
and that's kind of the thing. There's been in the recent years with like post COVID, there's been so much like Californians moving here because it's cheaper, and then us, you know, moving there because it's like, well, it's cooler.
It's cool. Or there's a beach. I'm so sick of the valley and the raining all the time. And
what's another extra $100 a month to live anyway?
Well, that's putting it lightly. There's so much more to live in there, but also at the same time, like
for rent,
you get a beach. There's never a cloud in the sky when I'm there. It's just sunny and beautiful, and you know, it's a nice. I like going there in the winter when it's here. Winter here, like it's still colder there, but it's like no humidity. It rains a little bit, but it's like nothing as bad as here.
I mean,
but yeah, man, it's been cool like that. Just not something even a few years ago I would have been just talking shit about LA like on a podcast like a few years ago, like not in like a really offensive way, but just more of like yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't really need to go out there because I can write better songs or as good songs here. And I'm kind of like, I've laid off of that opinion a little bit. I think like with everything in life, something you don't understand immediately feels like bad.
Oh man, there's so many things in my life that I've talked bad about, and then like
then you have the
come
experience.
full circle, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I love that.
I'm kind of eating crow a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've ate so much crow in my life.
Yeah,
that's why I try so hard not to talk bad about.
Dude, the
second I go, I hate that. I'm usually just like, oh, give it 6 months. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be the one doing that.
It's almost like you've just set it into motion that now. Well, let's see what you think in about 6 months or whenever the right time comes. You're gonna be saying something different. You know,
it is like clockwork every single time. It is. Yeah, I think of many stories of that.
That's such a big life lesson too. Like it really is. Like that is such a good fundamental human thing to get good at is to like. Something feels foreign.
Well, see it from another perspective. Yeah.
Another, you know, if it clashes with like your political belief systems or other things that feel foundational to you, like, you know, I don't know. I'm just kind of. I think we also have learned a lot the last few years with social media and just people fighting on the internet. And like, I think at some point,
I mean, maybe you've learned a lot, but there's so much more divisiveness and sides than
there's
anything.
A lot. No, there's so much. But I know for me personally, like just a personal journey, like. Yeah, I was a guy that go and fight people online like a few years ago. Like
it's fun to do. I'm not gonna lie. Every once in a while,
every now and then, it's like you know what? I get that things are subjective, but you're wrong. Like
every once in a while, I can't help myself to just hop on Facebook for whatever reason, and there's some group on there that just has got some like what are you even?
What are you doing? Yeah,
I just go. All right, I'm gonna dedicate today to just fighting with this person on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I think I changed my tune a little bit. I'm not as I guess headstrong on forcing my opinion when it comes to stuff that honestly, like, especially when it comes to like the big stuff that people argue about, like the politics. Like, okay, what am I doing? I'm just a dude that makes music in my house. Like I don't know anything.
That is
I don't know anything. And also, like, even if I say something, it doesn't matter.
That's so my position, and I struggle with that sometimes because, like, I think it's easy to fall into like an apathetic. Sort of mindset with that I feel a little called out on at times, but I'm so that same way. I'm like, what do I know? Like, I'm just a dude. Nobody cares.
No one knows anything. Nobody actually knows anything.
And even if I really did dead set know something, I can't do anything. Like, what am I going to do about it? You know, you can't
the
really.
The person that doesn't agree with you doesn't think you do, so what does it matter? You
know, and again, like, I don't love that mindset because it's like an apathetic thing that, like, if you really feel strongly about something, like, taking a stand, I think, is important, you know, and I think
for sure
there standing firm in what you know you feel strongly about, I think matters because obviously there's power in numbers and there's people like you, and if you want to see change, you know, I think there's a level that you know, if everybody just sat back and was like, well, that's the way it is and that sucks, you know, I don't think we'd ever see any real change, but
for sure. I'm talking about the dumb stuff that's clearly out of our control, like presidential elections, all that stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you can vote, do whatever you want, but like sitting there mindlessly for 8 months leading up to this argument, it's just like, I'm just so done with that, man. I'm over it. I'm not looking forward to next year, it's just gonna be more of that, but more of like, and for me, like the trigger for me, it's like, you know, I have to say something, or I need to make a post about this. Does this affect, like, if it's a friend of mine that could be like being targeted, just for who they are, or like, that's a very humanitarian thing. It's very like, like just let people do what they want to do, man. Like live their life. Like, come on, like that's where I get like ruffled up. That's what will get me to get on the keyboard and like make a post and be like,
get on the keyboard.
Yeah, get on the keyboard. Well, you know, I'm on my computer all day. I can just open up Twitter on there.
Oh man, that is.
You know, dude, remember when we had computer rooms as a kid?
I mean, technically, we still do. We got studios.
No, but normal people.
A whole room dedicated.
That's a thing in like 40 years. Like, you say the word computer room, that's going to mean nothing to anybody. Like we lived in the era of computer rooms where families they dedicated a room in their house to put their big desktop, and then they had all their files and all their physical and digital files. And
it's still mind blowing to me to think back to that and like the capabilities that those computers had versus what we have now in such a short amount of time.
Oh, everything's.
I mean, that's only
we
been
do
what,
so much
maybe?
more on our phone now than we could do on the best computer
That's
in
what I'm saying.
1996.
Like, and it's so insane to me. Like, even just pictures. Like, you even think back 10 years ago to what a phone was taking.
The desktop can take a photo.
What?
The computer room can take a photo.
No. But you know what I'm saying? Like, even just bringing it to the technology of the phone alone is just like. And that's why it's somewhat terrifying to me of just how quickly, exponentially technology is getting better.
And then you rub some AI in there too.
I don't know what it looks like for the future, what it means, or how far we let it go. But looking back on it is crazy to think about that, like computer room, right? 'Cause I mean, I remember the dial-up, and it was like you waited 20 minutes just to even get on the internet.
And you're always jealous of that front. Well, my family was that family. We had the second phone line so that the computer could stay online while you could call on the other one. That it's just so like, just think about it now. It's so funny, but like also like,
and it was the best thing in the world.
It was also like the best time to be alive because I could go outside and I enjoyed playing outside or just doing outside activity. Like now, I mean, not that I don't have outside hobbies. I don't like hiking.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't but do you know what I love? I'm sitting playing Destiny on my Xbox. Like, I mean, I'll do that for an afternoon on a Saturday, but like,
I think biking is the thing I'm going to get into.
Really?
I've talked about it for a while, and I always say this like as it's turning into winter now, but I think biking is the thing because I'm the same way. Hiking, don't really care. I'll take a walk around the neighborhood, but that lasts 20 minutes.
Like, all the time,
I hate running. Like my wife runs. I hate running. So I'm like, I'm not running, So I'm like, I don't know.
I think for people like us, it's really important for people like us to do something.
That's what I mean. Like I need a hobby that gets me out of the house. Like I need to get outside because I'm the same way. Like I don't see the outdoors unless I
have to be outside.
You have
to do whatever.
Well, I pay.
You don't do that.
Yeah. So like,
See, I'm never. I don't think I'll ever be the guy that hired. I don't know. My parents just made me do it so much when I was a kid. It's become like a thing, and it's my like the yard's just big enough to where it won't take over an hour.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? I could put a podcast on, be out and I enjoy it now. I hated it growing up as a teenager. My parents, they have this big yard in the backyard, and we had a push mower. I always complained all the time. Everyone in this neighborhood has a riding mower. Why didn't I have a riding mower?
Yes.
And I would just like frustrated. I'd like kick the thing and just scream at it and so mad.
That was the same thing growing up.
But now I enjoy it. It's like weirdly enjoy it. Like me and Allie take turns. Like one, maybe I'll mow and she'll do the like weed eat or leaf blow, whatever. Then we'll switch, and I've kind of turned into more like, you know what? Like you're really good at that thing, and I don't care enough to have that precise of detail. But I have done the mowing thing so long for so much. I kind of care a little bit about not missing spots. Yeah. And, I don't know.
I mean, I was just saying before we got on the mic that's going to be my new thing is like the lawn, I think. Because like I pay a guy now, but it's out of necessity because I don't have room for like a mower or anything. Yeah. But that feels like a good thing to obsess over. Like grass. Dude, like it's kind of fun.
You
like a garden. Like we tried planting a garden this past year and it just kind of didn't work, and we like started too late. But like things like that I can get behind because it like gets you outside and like it's right outside the studio door, water it, watch, there's like life-giving.
It connects to what you like, which is music. Like, I want when people come over it to look really cool.
Yeah, well, that too. You want, or the grass to look nice. Somebody rolls up and they're like, whoa.
I remember walking through the mud before you did that.
Yeah.
Me and Harvey.
Well, you haven't even seen the stone yet.
No, I haven't seen the stone. I'll have to come over again.
Yeah.
We'll do another Banger Harvey track and come over and do some revisions.
I'm ready. It's wild. Andrew, what would you tell yourself 5 years ago, 10 years ago? If you could talk to you
5 years ago. What's 5 years ago? 2018.
Or young, like 18-year-old.
You know what?
What encouragement would you give?
We can get even more vulnerable, personal here too. I feel completely comfortable talking about this. 6 years ago, 2017, I got divorced. I was married. I was very young. A lot of people don't even know that, but man, that was a hopeless time. and I just kind of went full time on music. I had been working for a guy in Franklin in the Christian world, like had done all the huge records back in the day. And I was making as much money as I was in my full-time job before that, which felt appropriate to quit that job and do that. And that would open up more time for me to do stuff at home. Right as that got going, life was great. Divorce struck. It was a very dark time in my life for sure. and that wasn't the first time that anything crazy, especially in those years, anything crazy bad happened. Right before that, you know, my band had just signed with Tooth and Nail. We were going to record a record. We had a falling out with a member of our band in the middle of that production. You know, it's a classic case of we've been friends for a very long time, and I've kind of like glossed over maybe some things that would rub me the wrong way if I met you now.
Yeah.
And it's like equivalent of just like a bad relationship. But you're like, yeah, if you see people are dating someone, it's like, man, it's just the time thing has kept it going.
Yeah.
We had a really bad falling out that really it hurt a lot.
Yeah.
And it got a little more than it. I can't say too much, but it got a little bit legal. And we had to deal with that for about a year, and which put the record on pause. You know, that was a very hard time for me. It was very like my best friends. He was actually a groomsman in one of my weddings, my first wedding.
Yeah.
You know, to lose like a close friend like that over some stuff that, you know, it's all in the past now. And we've talked since then, and things are like at a okay level now. Enough where it's not like, you know, it's fine.
You don't hate each other.
Yeah. It's not like this horrible thing anymore. I think it's just, that's a part of the time. You know, going through that, going through this divorce, and then 8 months maybe after that was done, I lost one of my closest friends to suicide. So this was all back to back.
That's a lot.
Within about a year and a half span.
It's crazy.
I like to tell people I don't feel any older than 26 because that was when that all wrapped by when I was 26. That was the last big like horrible event, right? I think that if I could talk to myself, it would be if I could go back at any point in time and like give myself some advice. I love the question because it's like, well, if you only had one chance, you get a one part in your life, only one time to do a course correct or do a thing, or maybe you shouldn't do this. I kind of would still let all that happen.
Yeah.
I would let it all happen because I think there was so much hurt and heartache, but there was so much growth that came out of it.
Yeah.
It took a lot of years of long, hard conversations, therapy, other things as well. But I would probably go back to myself a little bit after that, maybe like late 2018, maybe around the time me and Allie started dating. And, you know, I would probably say, hey, like, you know, don't resist talking about this and getting some help.
Yeah.
Because I got there, but like, I think I felt like I'd gotten over some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of people, you know, even like breakups in general, like, oh yeah, I'm over it. And it's like, well, maybe you're not. Like, you still are up at night. Like, it's on your mind. Like, if it's on your mind still regularly, like maybe you're not over it.
Yeah.
You know, I would go back to maybe around then and just be like, hey, like, fix your head first. Yeah. You know, because I made a lot of dumb mistakes for a few years there that, you know, I could have maybe there's a few that like, okay, I didn't need to maybe do that. There's no like learning. There's no like, oh no, shouldn't have done that. Yeah. But that would be where I'd go. I wouldn't even go back and change like my adult life. Even if I'd be like, hey, you're going to have this, find these people, make these songs. Yeah. Here are the songs. Just do what's the movie Yesterday with the Beatles where he remembers everything.
I don't know. I've seen that. That sounds fun.
It's a very okay movie. But the concept is guy wakes up one day. The Beatles never existed, but he has every bit of memory of who the Beatles are. Oh, wow. He is the biggest Beatles fan. He knows all their songs. So he writes their songs. He steals their ideas and then becomes popular. And wild. But I wouldn't even do that. I would just be like, no, you kind of need to go through the things to learn that. And so that's why I always like kind of like that question always fascinates me. It's like, I don't know, man. I feel like some things just kind of need to happen. Like, I don't know if I would even decide. I probably wouldn't even, if the option was available, wouldn't even do it. I wouldn't even talk to myself in the past.
Well, I
wouldn't even do it.
That's it. I love that answer too. I mean, I was just talking to a friend yesterday who was, you know, went through a divorce, and, you know, my story was long-term relationship, broke up, whole thing. Like, and we were just, you know, saying, because it happened around the same time, him and I were just saying, like, we're so grateful for it almost. Like, as hard as those things are, you know, like everything you're saying, like as hard as they are, you come out on the other end going like, I never would be the person that I am or have the insight that I have now or be able to do these things now if I hadn't done that. Like if I had just like gently skated through life like scot-free and didn't have to deal with these hard things, like I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Sure.
In any capacity. Like I wouldn't have any of this. You know, I wouldn't be making the art that I'm making probably, you know, like all of that. Everything affects everything, you know?
Yeah, that's
right here. And it's like, and I think that's the important part. And I think people can have two reactions to that. I think some people can avoid it, right? Like, and just try and live the easiest scot-free life. And that is, I think, comes with its own set of problems.
Eventually you'll run into some things that you can avoid.
Sure, but you could still deflect and pretend it didn't happen and numb out, whatever. But I also think there's the opposite where I think some people love the catastrophe and they constantly live in this like the world's out to get me and everything's horrible. And I don't think that's a healthy way to exist within it either, of like constantly looking for some hardship that is, you know, catastrophic either. It's just having a good relationship with yourself and your emotions and your feelings, and having a way to process them that is healthy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even like wrapping that to like even the career thing.
Yeah.
Like for a bunch of years here, I was mainly just doing pop stuff.
Yeah.
Like whatever was happening here in Nashville, late 2010s. And like I said in that like message is like, yeah, like there's all the music I love and what I grew up on. I was doing none of it for a long time. And like, you know, when the right time struck and the culture was ready for it, they wanted that wanted that nostalgic comeback. They wanted pop punk. They wanted all that stuff. There's so much I learned just being in rooms doing pop songwriting. Yeah, that really helped me a lot, because if I would have just skipped straight to like 2011, I do this post-hardcore band EP. Love that, fun, and then I end up just doing that. Forever. Oh, dude, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. Who knows what that would have ended up being? Sure, but I wouldn't have gotten such valuable experience and knowledge in kind of other things that I could bring in, and that affects how my taste is. Like that helps me know like when writing a song, like, is this good enough? You know, is this line good? Can we tweak this? Like, does this? It's like, no, like the pop songwriting for years helped me with some of that, but also like not doing what I loved for so long, like making the music I really, really love making, and not being able to do that for so long because no one wanted to do it, made it so much more exciting. It was like, it felt like I was like young again. Yeah. Like it really felt like, I'm sure you might feel the same way to some of the records you've been working on and stuff. It's like, man, I would have never thought, you know, 15 years ago that I'd be making this Sneakers record, be mixing the Sneakers or this John Harvey song or whatever, or 90s Kids. Stuff that like feels really reminiscent of like our favorite music when we were younger. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's super like, you know, like once again, super just like humbled at that, just the experiences I've had, and even the bad ones, like the help shape, like all that stuff is just, you know, like you said, everything affects everything. It's all a build up to like whatever you do today and like who you are, and like definitely who I am, you know, I wouldn't, some of the stuff I'm doing now, like there's like that I just did in LA, like would have never gotten that. If I didn't, I know I wouldn't have gotten that if I wouldn't have spent so many years doing just like pop songwriting and sessions.
Well, it was a testament too to like some of the work that you want, you know, 5-10 years ago, like you wanted to make these pop punk records, but like you probably weren't ready for it anyway. You know, like you would have.
I don't know. I think
you would have dropped the ball. No, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
no. Even back then, I was on my. I mean, I can show you. I even had like, stuff.
Like, no, I was ready.
I literally was sitting making stuff like in Pro Tools by myself, just riffs and things and stuff I've pulled from even sometimes in writes today. Nice. But like, no one wanted to do that. But at the same time, like, I think really truly on the writing standpoint, like, like, I'm a huge punk fan. Seen whatever, it hadn't hit. Like it hit in a long time. Yeah. And it wasn't because the bands were not talented. I think it was more of like once everything kind of fell out of
a culture thing.
Fell out of the culture, I think there was this threshold of excellence on the writing standpoint that kind of fell out with it. Since no one was trying punk on radio. Yeah. No one, it wasn't 2003 and Blink has I Miss You and Feeling This on the radio, and Sum 41 has whatever, and all these songs are just like, we think, oh man, those are fun songs. I mean, I Miss You is also just a really well written song, but like some of those are like fun songs. It's like there's a trick, there's a way to give that, like, whatever that feeling is, that is what I'm like always chasing when it comes to that. Like when I'm doing a write for punk or like a rock thing, like it's like, okay, well, how do I, this is part of the taste thing. How do I love this? Where is it? When is it done? It's like, does this make me excited like I was when I heard X record? Does it feel, it doesn't have to sound like it, but does it give me those feelings of like, I'm sitting at the apartment complex in Orlando, Florida, right before my family moved to Nashville in November 2004. I'm sitting there in that afternoon listening to like whatever's on the radio on my boombox while I'm outside with my skateboard.
Yeah, you're checking in with the taste.
I'm hearing like Eminem and I'm hearing Blink and I'm hearing all this stuff, and I like look so like I like dwell all the time on like how great those times were, and that's like fuel for me. It's like, man, I want to feel that. That's what I want to feel. And like, if I can make something that makes me feel that way, then I'm really happy. It doesn't matter who the artist is or what it is. It doesn't have to sound like it. It's just like, it's about the feeling for me. Like, does it feel right?
I love that imagery and you going to that place. Like,
I do it all the time.
In that physical location going like, does it feel like what I want it to feel like, or what I
think that's song, where we, I feel like that's like the, not that separates the men from the boys thing. There's so many things that do that. But there's people that make that band that work with.
But I think that's such a good baseline, because I think most people aren't thinking like that. I think most people are going like,
what's hitting right now? What's the vibe?
Like, is this gonna sit on Spotify playlists? Like, is it playlistable, or like is TikTok gonna like it? You know, like they're not checking in with their inner child. You know, like you are. Like you're checking in with like
that's what I've always
making
done.
that inner child happy.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the key to the success.
I think I don't know. The more I've thought about it, it maybe is like that's maybe like my that's my Rick Rubin moment, my approach. That's my like that's the sound bite, you know. Yeah. But the was the one where he's like, I don't know how to do anything. But
I'm gonna clip that one out specifically.
Yeah.
Andrew Gomez does not know how to do anything.
Don't know how to do anything. But even my band's first record was like I learned so much from Matter Katie, which like kind of really to a major degree is kind of the reason for all this. He was recording my band very early on, and my first band actually. And you know, one day maybe a month after we finished wrapping our second EP, it was like in 2011. He was like, "Hey, you ever thought about like producing?" Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah." I mean, I had like a few years ago when I was like 15, but I realized like, how am I going to make a living doing that? Like that's also back early days, like very early home studio days where it was all about getting to a big studio. Yeah. And that's something I really kind of didn't have interest in, because all my recording experience that I've had as an artist has been in a home studio. Yeah. And it started very early on. So that's why that was the template for me. It was like, this is how it should feel, you know? It should feel like we're at home and we're like hanging out and we're hanging out and we're having a good time. We're laughing. We'll watch a dumb YouTube video to start the day off, and we'll just like quote it all day. And we'll just like refer back to it. And like, I think another thing too about how I approach making music is if we're not having fun, then I kind of just don't care to do it. Yeah. Like even if the song is sad, it's like this like ballad, like if we can't be having a good time, like some of the people I've had like not friction with necessarily, but like some songwriters, people and writes, like people that are a little stiff and like can't joke around. Yeah. Like I just can't really, I don't like working with them.
Yeah. If you're not having fun, what's the point? Yeah.
Yeah. But he very much set that, like, I think a lot of my, I don't know, the template or how I approach things or how I etiquette, whatever, kind of comes from working with Matt back then. Because I just had so much fun as an artist. Yeah. It was just like this, oh man, I get to go to the studio today. It's gonna be so fun. We're gonna like hang out, have a good time, make dope songs. We're gonna like, I can't wait to hear the progress on this thing. And then, you know, he called me one day. He's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And that was like the last little push I needed to be like, okay, it's time to like give this a shot and at least just start learning, maybe spend a little bit of investment, get a little bit of money in there to like get some gear, do it. But, you know, at the end of the day, when we made our debut record on Tooth, that was all we talked about the whole time is like, we kind of just want to make a timeless record.
Yeah.
Like I think that's at the end of the day, that's all I want to do is make timeless music. I want to make music that like you can't really pick out what year it came out on. Like you just kind of like, man, it's just good. Maybe it might feel like this year, but I can't tell you if it was made like in 2004 or whatever.
Timeless is a bit of a buzzword. That
it is buzzy, but
I don't know how I feel entirely about it.
I love it. The music that's contemporary in the literal term, like it's meant for a certain time. It's temporary, like in relevance, or like I don't know, like in the moment it's cool. Like there's how many big songs have we seen come and go, like big radio hits that people have like already forgotten about in the last like 5 years.
Oh, well, we're living in a one-hit wonder
exactly
right now. Yeah, I mean it's a one-hit wonder generation.
I take an album that takes a few years to catch, like where people are like, you know what, like that was good over like overnight, like a billion streams, and then like nothing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean it's just been an interesting shift in that consumption of music too. I think you know everything affects everything. So I mean the platforms and that dictates a lot of that too, which then dictates how people create too, because people want those hits.
I'm not going to sit around and act like what's happening now doesn't affect how you adapt. There's also good things that are new that are worth like. I love hyperpop. Like, I think hyperpop is sick.
Yeah.
There's things in there that I think are valuable in the way those songs are being made, and like these kids, these 15-year-olds on their computers, like clipping at they're like -1 on the
it's digital overs all day.
Yeah. Well, what was the record we're talking about?
Whatever one you sent me that time, I was like, whoa! It was 4 dB over digital 0. Insane.
It's insane. Like it's completely clipped, and it's like, but they've made it art in a way. Like,
I mean, the thing that I love about hyperpop is that it's punk rock in the sense that it's giving a middle finger.
It is
to pop, right? It's culturally that where it's.
But the songs are still catchy.
Sure.
But it's also like, here's how we'll do it.
But it's done in a way that it's like meant to be incredibly catchy, because it's like, look, we can make pop, but we could just destroy it.
It's almost like annoyingly like pop. Yeah. Like it's like well, we can run
the most sugar coated bubblegum pop thing,
and just OTT on every track cranked, and then on the master bus 5 times.
But to me, that's the heart of art. Sometimes is that it makes a statement, right? And that. Like punk rock is making a statement that, I
remember the first time I heard Glaive, the hyperpop artist, and it was like years ago. I was like, this is new, this is different, it's interesting. I don't understand it, but in the best way. Like, I want to get this. I think this is the newest thing. Just like when I was at basketball camp in 99, 2000, and I heard All Star for the first time. And I was like, this is the coolest song ever made. Like, and now it's just, and now, guess what? That song has stand the test of time. Like it is forever, like just a cultural thing. Like it's just one of those songs that in 40 years people will reference, which is so funny to me. I don't know. I feel like music is so much sillier in the last 20 years than it was like in the 70s and 80s, where like things were really the ground was breaking every time, like Michael Jackson and the Beatles and like U2 and all that. And now it's like,
well, it serves a different purpose over time, culturally, I think.
Yeah.
There's new ways to make statements that might have more impact than something like music that we've commodified in a sense. Like when something's been around long enough, you become accustomed to it, I think.
Sure.
And it's not a medium that holds as much power anymore, I think. Like back, you're talking about those, artists who just were coming out, like that medium was still very new. So it was record breaking when the Beatles did X, Y, and Z, or Michael Jackson, or whereas now it's like
cool, another song.
Yeah, like cool, another song.
Another
even if it makes a statement, it might not be as much of a statement as something else. And there's so much of it now that it's hard to cut through the noise, as everybody says.
For sure. So that's probably why I gravitate a lot to like pop artists like Billie Eilish and even Olivia Rodrigo. Like it's not like, I mean, it's that new record is just so good. The Guts record is like, that will end up being probably the most played record for me this year. And there's a new Blink record coming out this week, which is saying a lot. And I'm like the world's biggest Blink fan. So it's like, and it's a good record, but it's like, it's doing the thing where it's like, I wouldn't tell you what year this came out. I could not tell you if I didn't hear that. This is like 2002, but also like the writing feels very advanced for that time.
The Olivia record, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not for me. I don't enjoy it necessarily for whatever reason.
If you didn't like the first one as much, I would at least recommend trying this one. It's more on the rock side than the ballad side. There's a couple ballads, and it's mostly just bangers. But
yeah, I gave it somewhat of a chance. I don't listen to the music a ton anymore anyway, but
dude,
but that's a good key to making a statement about the timeless thing, is that is one that I would say, as timeless being a buzzword is, that one is one that I would go like, yeah, I agree with you on that. That is a record that I could go
but
like.
There's also lyrics in it that's like, no one would say that in 2002, because that's a, there's cultural things in it. And but also at the same time, it's like, I always love it when we're in a writing room and someone's like, no, we can't say this because it's going to date it. It's like, well, also some of our favorite songs have references to like, I mean, there's some songs I love I still listen to that have there's what's the Lion K song, like when I run out of minutes on my cell phone or whatever. It's just that just tells you a little. That just tells you a little bit of the time,
the context.
It gives you some context. Yeah, exactly. It's just I don't think that stuff matters as much, but I don't know. I just love like where music is at right now. Honestly, even in the pop space, like it feels like we're in that like cool like. There's just a lot. Anything can go at this point. Anything could pop. Like any kind of music could pop. As long as if it is authentic and connects with people. Which is what I always tell people I'm working with. It's like, I don't really care about chasing a song or writing a song that is going to like be the right formula for success. I only care about if it's authentic. If it's authentic to you, the artist, or like, because at the end of the day, the authenticity is what always is going to keep people coming back for you as an artist.
Sure,
you can have a banger song that you can't identify with, but that song does really well. But like, if you can't show who you are through your art, a little over time, song by song, and kind of paint like a story or describe yourself. Like I think Olivia's done a really good job with that on that record, really both records. But and Billie Eilish to another extent too. The Happier Than Ever record as well, very good. But also like I feel like you're saying, I feel like I kind of know them a little bit,
Sure.
But like there's some songs we all know. There's songs that are just kind of like, this is here to make money.
Sure.
And it's like this. There's not a thought behind those eyes when they sing that.
Yeah.
But I kind of want songs where people, when they perform it live, it's like they have to get in that emotional space.
It's a vulnerable song, and that's the easiest way to communicate authenticity is when you're vulnerable.
Exactly.
That's the way you connect.
That's sick. We can go for a while, but I can go all day. But I know that like this is like
I think this is a great spot to end, man. This is fun.
Yeah,
I love this.
Yeah,
we got some great points. Anything for the people before we? This is your chance. All like 100 people who are going to watch this.
Subscribe. No.
Smash that like
button. No, for real. It's currently on YouTube, so do that. But man, I would just say like I'm just really proud of where I am at right now. As I was saying from the very beginning, like I think I don't really have the answers. I don't think it will ever have the answers creatively. Like even the people that we think have made it. That's another thing I've learned. I think Cam
no one knows anything.
Cam even talked a little bit. It's like he's like, oh, these people I looked up, like they don't
Nobody knows.
They're just coming to the session like, I don't know, dude, let's just write a song. I think I'm very happy with where I'm at right now. I feel like there's an old friend, mentor of mine used to say all the time, there's like no arrivals to anything. You never arrive anywhere. And if you arrive, then that's actually probably a bad thing. You kind of have to keep growing.
It's always a journey.
It's always a journey. It's all about destination, all the cliches, but also like, I'm just happy with where I'm at now, and I'm very excited about potential in the future. And even like if I spend another year doing around the same amount of kind of stuff I'm doing now, like I'm very happy with what I'm doing right now. And I can say like right now, I've always been varying levels of happy for sure, but I feel like I've come out of like a period where, like I said, I'm in love with making music again. I feel like the ideas I'm bringing are now hitting a level where the peak of whatever that was for me was maybe whenever that last time was. And I'm like, I can recognize what that is. And I know like, I think I'm just a little more aware of things. I think it's just part of getting older. And I'm excited to see what happens when I watch this episode in like 5 years.
Yeah, right.
I'm very excited. I've done only a few podcasts, and every now and then I'll go listen to one like when it passes like a 3, 4, or 5 year mark. Yeah. And it's just always a fun, like,
I love hearing it like 2 weeks later when it comes out. I'm
Really?
like, wow, I barely even remember having that conversation. Time flies.
Time does fly,
fun.
but I'm excited to be, to stay present and grow and do all the things, but also enjoy like what's around and not take it for granted. And just, we all have those moments where we like don't know that we're in the good times.
Love it.
Yeah, that's where I want to. I'm happy to be aware of I'm in a good time right now.
There you are.
There it is.
Couldn't say any better.
Yeah.
Andrew, thanks for doing this.
Dude, anytime. Love it.
Rock and roll. Peace.
See ya.